officially open the meeting at, what time is it, 3:18, and ask for any apologies. No apologies? Right, confirmation of previous minutes.
I think, if I could just, I'm not sure where we declare a conflict of interest.
You've got a conflict of interest?
Yeah, point number 2 on the agenda, Vicky.
On number 5.5, around the recreational boating club's application for fees. I sit on that board, on that club as the secretary, so I need to abstain there, please.
Right. That's no problem at all. So do we have a mover, and everyone's read the minutes from last time from the meeting on the 9th of March in Ahuriri Community Hall? Do I have a mover and a seconder for those minutes?
I'm happy to move that they're true and correct.
Okay. And a seconder?
I'll second them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you. Any further discussion on those minutes? No. So all in favour that we accept them? Against?
Please raise your hand if you've... Yeah.
All in favour? Yeah.
All good.
Against? So we've carried them. Cool. So we get on to the, now we'll go through the minutes.
Yep, Paddy's flat.
So we'll get on to the, page 17 in the agenda, the decision reports, Paddy's flat. The recommendation is that the Ahuriri Board approve an annual budget of $10,000 to clear the open channel across Paddy Flat, funded from the Kurau Amenity Rates Reserve. So the this has been going on for some time, and I'm sure that we're all aware. We had an inspection of this area recently before lockdown, and the summary of the options considered. Option 1, require landowners to clear and maintain any land drainage channels crossing their properties. The cost of maintenance would lie with the individual owners. Option 2, council officers to arrange quotes and issue works to successful contractors. Funding would come from the Kurau Amenity Rates Reserve, and that one's recommended. So have we got any discussion on those options at the moment? Yes, Brent.
Yeah, look, I'd just like to say that it has gone on for a very long time. It's nice that we've finally got something, I believe, that's a good solution that will help the wider community. So I certainly support option 2 and moving forward and getting them cleared out and making sure that some people's houses are safe. We heard one lady who'd had a house flooded on a couple of occasions already. So I'd hate to see it happen again.
So are you moving that, Brent?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we accept option 2.
Right. And have we a seconder for that? Have we a seconder for the, yep. So we'll go Ross Menzies. Great. So any further discussion on that solution? It's a great solution. So all accepted, raise your hands. Yeah. Against? Carried. Thank you, guys. That's a great conclusion. So the next page is it's quite a detailed report, that Paddy's flat. Thank you so much. The next one is the Matata golf course. It's another matter that's gone on for some time. Even up to an hour ago, I was still trying to find out who actually owned that land or who was responsible for that land. The whole case has evolved around some power poles that have been replaced, and an invoice went out to the golf course to pay their share of the power poles. But they felt that the installation was new and they shouldn't have had to pay for the power poles. But we've come to some amicable decisions that the funding for the power pole be covered, mainly because of the resource that it provides in our community. So the options are the Matata Golf Club pay the outstanding invoice of $5,687 and completes the 2 non-financial requirements. Or option 2, the Matata ratepayers properties connected to the public sewage system fund the full replacement of the power poles contingent upon the Matata Golf Club completing the 2 non-financial requirements. So the 2 non-financial requirements were arranging for an easement to go across the land that the Network Power can have access to, and that they pay in the future costings of maintaining those poles. And my personal opinion is I don't think that'll be a problem for quite some time. But in under my investigations, and I've been talking to Oscar and Renee about this, the easement is not so simple because we're not quite sure who owns the land that the easement needs to go over. So, so what I'm asking is that that we make a decision now and on payment of the invoice, and we continue dealing with, because if it's council land, then it'll be easy. But the land is part of the golf course is owned by Lynn's, and there's another small section owned by Meridian, and I believe as CEO Fergus Power, have you discussed with Lynn's on this land ownership of the golf course?
Sorry, I just unmute myself. No, this hasn't been brought to my attention actually, but we can certainly deal with it. It's always complicated when you've got multiple landowners for an easement. Nothing's insurmountable. Yeah, no, agreed. Renee's been dealing with this, and she's done considerable work on it as she does. But I've been told by the powers that be in the local community that there is some type of agreement being written up for the golf course on the land ownership, but I can't track it down. I've asked Hugh Cameron, and I'm in the process of trying to get something from the president, David Blick. But if there is no agreement, then that's something that we should follow up in the future, that we make ownership of the golf course very clear. So, the recommendations is option 1 is pay the golf course, pay the outstanding invoice, and option 2 is that the Matata ratepayers, which are the properties connected to the public sewage system, fund the full replacement of the power poles, and we asked the golf club to follow up the non-financial requirements. So how do you all feel about that?
Vicky, what sort of poles are they? Are they concrete or?
They're wood poles. When you live out in a rural area, unfortunately I have one on my property, and we have 5 going into the farm. Many years ago, Network Power had said that these poles are yours, we don't want them anymore, and if they need replaced, you are going to pay for them. And this is one of those instances, and unfortunately council and golf course have ended up with poles they really don't want and don't want to pay for. So Yeah.
Thank you.
A question, Chair, just on option 2. Could just explain, I'm just not quite so sure what that actually means. So that, to me, the way I read option 2 is that that would come out of a particular fund,
Yes.
and rather than the golf club paying it, because the golf club has refused to pay, and we're at the point now, and by the way, I'm not a golfer, so I've got no interest in this at all from a golfing perspective, other than just fairness to the community. But so does that mean that if they didn't pay it, in inverted commas, council would pay it from a fund? So we would be transferring one amount from one fund to another amount, the same amount to another fund to cover the cost of it. Is that
Yes.
how that works? Is
I assume it's a ledger entry. Yeah,
Right.
the ratepayers will pay it. The ratepayers will pay it.
So just what's the implication with that then from a precedent perspective? Is there any precedents? So for example, if we were to accept option 2, and given the fact that we know that the golf club is having difficulty providing a caveat because they don't apparently have ownership of that land, could we say that if we were to accept, say, option 2, that council and the golf club might be able to come to some arrangements in terms of working with Lynn, so a caveat can be given in due course?
Yes.
So that's just a question. I just don't know the answer to those precedents. Yeah. That's all from me at the moment.
Mayor Gary?
Just in the absence of anyone else putting their hand up on that one, I mean, essentially it's the activities there because of the Matata sewage scheme, and so the cost goes back to that, and obviously the option of the golf club sharing in the cost is because it's also getting benefit from those poles. So it's trying to target it back to where that needs to be, and I don't know enough. I haven't looked at the full reports. I think at the moment it was looking at a cost sharing between the two, and with the other option being that the golf club's assessed share would be paid by the surge scheme ratepayers. So it's not an issue as far as a precedent goes, other than the cost is falling within the community, as you know, any surge scheme costs would normally fall.
Brent.
Madam Chair.
Thanks, Vicky. Vicky, like as you're aware, I know this has been going on for a very long time, and I think the golf club's argument was that the poles were old when they came on board, and I do believe that the golf club has no objection moving forward to any share, even though that in the unforeseeable future is not likely to be a big thing. It is an asset that is used by all of the community, whether they're golf members or not. Lots of people pay the green fees, which was certainly highly used. One of the unique places during lockdown where golfing at a social distancing was still actually allowed. We don't have lots of community assets, I guess, like this, whilst it is under the control of the golf club. I think it would be important that moving forward, if we were to accept option 2, that I believe, we should also be asking that those ownership issues are taken care of as part of that at the same time, so that we get this all tidied up in one big hit. I'd hate to see it carry on for as long as it has already, and us not just tidy the whole lot up in one bundle, if we could.
Thank you, Brent. Any further discussion? So I do believe the land ownership is a big issue, and the word LINZ sends a shiver down my back. It takes many months, years to deal with LINZ on different issues, and the reason that I have brought this up is that the golf course is very well maintained by numerous volunteers. The work that's put into that facility and the the recreational benefit it has to our town is huge. And they did use, there was a comment made that they did pay water rates quite considerably on earlier days, and they have contributed immensely to our community. So my question to the officer was, apart from sending the bill to the debt collectors, what's our next move? So we need to find a resolution to this issue. So,
Yeah, Chair.
Ro-
I'm sorry, Ross Menzies had his hand up before me.
Yep. Ross Menzies.
Unmute.
Unmute.
I am now unmuted. Madam Chair, what is the preferred option here, 1 or 2? It's very complicated for somebody who's not there mowing the lawns on this golf course. So what is the preferred option?
Well, option 1 is what's outstanding at the moment. They owe over $5,500. It's invoiced to them, and so we're not.
And option 2 is a way to actually get it paid.
Yeah, get it paid
forward.
and get it resolved, and but then of course we've got the land ownership to deal with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ross McRovey, did you want to say something? Sorry.
No, I'm
Brent.
okay at the moment, thank you.
You're right, Brent.
Yeah, look, I think out of those 2 options for me, I just think option number 2, if this was to carry on or there was any more fight, we're probably spending more money on trying to find a solution than we are on the problem itself. Even if we're just to put that to bed and move on with it, I'd like to move that option 2 be our preferred option, and perhaps we could table at a later stage the ownership options and deal with it as a bigger issue.
Okay. Mayor Gary.
Just before you ask for a seconder for that, well, I have a lot of sympathy for the community there. It sort of inherited this, you know, it's helping to progress things in one direction, but ended up inheriting some dodgy assets, shall we say, that needed replaced pretty soon after. I don't know how much is in the Merrill Fund at the moment, but I'll check that out and I'll look at contributing something from that just because of the particular circumstances. Whether that's, it could be $1,000, it could be $2,000, it won't be more than that. But I'll see how things go, but at least it will take a wee bit of sting out of whoever has to pay that bill. So yeah, we'll see. If you want to make a motion that sort of, you know, that it's number 2, subject to what a contribution coming from the Merrill Fund, that would be fine.
That's great. How do you feel about that, Brent?
Yeah, that's really appreciated. Thank you, Gary. So yeah, I'd like to make the motion that we accept option number 2. With the option of some contribution coming towards the Merrill Fund after discussion.
Perfect. So do I have a seconder to that?
Yes, Chair, I will second it, but just before I get that put forward, don't we need to then deal with the remaining amount as to how that's paid? So, for example, if it's 5, 6, let's just say the Merrill Fund contributes 2,000 because it's easy to work it out. That's 3, 6, 8, 7 left over. Is that the amount that would come out of the ratepayers fund? Is that how I'm understanding that? Perfect. Okay, well, in that case, I'll second that, maybe with that added in, Brent, if that would be okay with you.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll second that. Thank you. And thank you, Mayor, for that. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So do we have a full house accepting this motion?
Yes.
Hands, yep. Against? No. So we consider it carried.
Well done,
Boy,
team. Well done, Vicky. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah, we are making major progress today. Wow, that's taken many, many years to achieve that. And thank you, Mayor Gary. We're on page 29, the adoption, 5.3, the adoption of the Waitaki District Council standing orders. Our board, fair to say, our board has had numerous discussions about this, and we're aware that the New Zealand local government are adjusting their standing orders. Maybe we could, does anyone want to discuss this? Welcome, Colin. Yeah. Anyone want to discuss it?
Chair,
Ross?
look, I'd like to make a suggestion, Chair, that I'm aware there has been a lot of discussion about this. The Community Board had not had very many meetings since they were formed late last year. And I think it would be very helpful to lay this on the table so we can have a little bit more discussion about it. And in the meantime, get some guidance and help from council executives to give us some guidance as it relates to the Ahuriri Community Board. It may well have an implication for other community boards as well, but the other community board. But I know, and I'm well aware, that LGNZ have quite a good template, if you like, for community board standing orders. I think I've got that right. So that would be my recommendation, that we lay it on the table until we get an opportunity to discuss it without trying to delay it. It's not going to hold us up from making decisions in the meantime, but we do need to get it right and everyone be happy with it. So that would be a suggestion of mine. I'm happy to move that, should there be a seconder. Chair.
Well, Madam Chair, I'm quite willing to second that. Ross has come in and beaten me to it.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh, good. Peter, did you want to, sorry, Fergus, I'll get back to you in a moment. Peter, did you want to say something?
I just want
sorry?
to read the motion of tabling.
All right. So, Fergus, have you got something to discuss with on this issue?
Yeah, I think my recommendation to you would be to make, I'm just conscious I've got the sun coming from over my shoulder at the moment to look like a Japanese zero, so I'll turn around shortly. But I'd just make this as simple as possible. You're highly unlikely to use these. So if I was in your position, I'd simply adopt councils, and the same with code of conduct. If you attempt to create your own, you will need to workshop those and devote time and energy to them, and probably never, ever, ever use them. So given that these are, the recommended LGNZ, provisions which have been adjusted appropriately by council itself to suit the Waitaki, I'd really make it very simple and then move on, because you've probably got lots of other things that your valuable time can be spent on. That would be my recommendation.
Right. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Ainsley?
Madam Chair, through you and acknowledging Mr. Power, I just wonder what is there a particular issue that is a problem that we could address by very quickly going through the standing orders? I understand that there's some confusion around the reference to mayor. We could just do a straight replacement of every time it says mayor, we could just say chair. And that is one amendment that you could make very simply if you decided to adopt them today.
Ross? Yeah, sorry, I'll give it to you now. Ross Menzies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do believe that we can't fix this just in 5 minutes on the thing, on the internet. I believe we have to take some time and very, very carefully figure out where we're going with standing orders. So I think the original motion that's on the floor should stand. It's been seconded, and that's what we're talking about. Yes, a little bit more discussion perhaps on it.
Peter, you got some comments?
I spent a lot of time at the weekend. I thought, yeah, a lot of it is old and it will never be used, but it does need to, we'd like to work on it to make it a working document, a useful document for both of them. Thank you.
Right. So, Gary, are you aware that the local government are reviewing their the standing orders for boards?
No, but it makes sense. So, I think I used in an email the term bureaucratic waffle. I did that in the context of the document itself being, very much over the top in comparison to how community boards have their meetings. That you do need some rules, as rules of engagement, which hopefully never get used. But like the Geneva Convention, it's not needed unless there's a war. And in the meantime, it just sits in the background. And if you've got something like that, then it gives a bit of protection should things go a bit astray. But there's there's quite a lot of elements in there that aren't relevant. You could just adopt them as they are and know that you're not going to use them, or you could make it more fit for purpose. And that's certainly hearing that from the members that that's what they want to do, and I'm happy to help out with that in whatever way as well. Community board meetings are generally very informal, and it's a relatively small crowd to control, unlike the rabble that we have around the council table. You have I won't go into that one, but no, happy to help out in any way.
Okay, so that motion, Ainsley, can you read that out again, please?
I can, Madam Chair. Let me just, oops, it's just disappeared on me. Oh, hang on a minute, I've just moved. Where's it gone? I think it's just that, I'm sorry, I've just lost it on my page.
Technology.
Yeah.
Ross, did you want to read?
Yeah, I just said, in light of the discussion and commentary around this, that we should lay it on the table for further discussion, with agreement that we try and get it resolved and bring it forward to our next community board meeting for approval in whichever format that may be. Words to that effect.
And you had you had the request for a workshop to get some feedback to compare the two documents, the one that's being proposed as council and any updated version from LGNZ, which I will track down for you.
Ainsley, I think Peter may have seconded that, or Ross may have seconded it. I just can't.
You moved it, and Ross Menzies has seconded it.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah. Thank you. So, do we have an acceptance of that motion?
You can put it to the meeting. Put it to the meeting, Madam Chair.
Yeah. Put it to the meeting that we all accept that motion. Yes.
Hands up.
Yep. And against? Carried. Okay. So we have to get through this massive paperwork through the agenda, and excuse me while I scoop through where are we on to the next? What page number, Ainsley, are we? We're on to
120.
120. Thank you, Gary. Just doesn't seem to move as quickly as I want it to. Certainly a lot of information provided to us. So we're into the Code of Conduct, and the 5.4, adoption of the Council's Code of Conduct 2019 to 2022. I hope you've all read the background to that. Where is the recommendation? That the recommendation is that the Ahuriri Community Board, number 1, adopts the updated version of the Waitaki District Council Code of Conduct for 2019 and 2022, as circulated. Number 2, approves the Waitaki District Council Code of Conduct 2019 to 2022, as adopted under 1 above for use by the Ahuriri Community Board during this triennium. So have we got any movers and seconders to that, or do we want to open with discussion on that?
Madam Chair, I'd like to say, thank you, I'd like to say that the Code of Conduct really belongs on the tail end of the standing orders, and as such, that should lie on the table and be studied over the next month. So I'd like to move that, but that's how we deal with this.
Okay, so Peter.
Ross on that.
Any further discussion on that one? No. So we have a mover and a seconder, and I put it to the meeting for accepting. All say aye. Yep. Or hands up would be better way of doing it. And against. So the motion is carried. Okay. So back to the reports. My apologies for going through this mess of paperwork. So 5.5, are we on to that, Ainsley?
Yes.
142.
Yes, 5.5, page 142.
Right. So have you read all that information on the Waitaki Recreational and Boating Club? And this is the one you have the conflict of interest for Brent, is this right? Yeah. So have we any discussions on that? You've read the letter, the Waitaki Recreational and Boating Club holding an annual Twin Lakes Powerboat Marathon on the weekend of the 4th and the 5th of July on Lake Benmore and Aviemore. We're expecting up to 30 boats for each day's racing and would like to ask the Ahuriri Community Board to consider covering the cost of the boat ramp fees for this event from one of their grants funds. The ramp fee is $5 per boat per day. The event is held annually and brings people to the Waitaki region from all over the country. We're a small club, so any assistance is muchly appreciated. So we're Brent, did you want to discuss this? I realise your conflict of interest, but do you want to give some background of this event? Sorry. Yeah.
I haven't got too much more to say other than that. Really, it's been something, this is our 5th year running it. It's grown every year. We're probably not expecting up to 30 this year just due to the COVID thing, but the less numbers that we have, the harder that is for the club to even break even on this particular event. And as a club, we do sort of invest back into the valley in other ways. So it's not something we put our hand out often for, but just per event basis is something that we look at.
Okay. Gary.
I note the recommendations, but I think in all fairness, this would be something where council should consider as a waiver of the fees. We've got a special fund that to allow fees to be waived. It pays them instead. So rather than this coming from the community board, this is a benefit to the Waitaki district, and something that we would normally consider, as in the same ways as we do road closures for public events and so forth, being paid out of that fund. So if there was a motion along the lines that the Ahuriri Community Board requests that council waive the fees, we could get an opinion from Mr. Power on that one. If it can't be decided by staff, and I think it usually is, but it could have the backup that if that wasn't approved, then the community board uses its discretionary fund. But could we just ask Mr. Power?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I
Mr.
can't see it being a problem at all. If there are any difficulties, we will come back to you. But for a sum like this, I'm sure that we can make suitable arrangements.
I'll move Madam Chair, along the lines of the Mayor suggested, and I just forget the exact wording that he made, but those words were perfect.
The Ahuriri Community Board requests the council waive the fees.
Yep.
For this event.
For that, up to that number of votes, etc.
Yep.
This yearly event. So do I have a seconder for that, Peter?
I spoke online to Brent about that, and the feedback he gave was they leave the place clean and tidy, which is great, and so I would second it. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any further discussions? No. So I'll put it to the meeting for acceptance. All hands up. Great. Against? Carried. Thank you so much. A great event to be held in our area. So,
and I'd just like to express our thanks with my other hat on to both Fergus and Mayor Kircher for the support. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So the next one is my report, which was not easy to write out because I didn't really go anywhere. But
got the meeting schedule.
No, I think you've missed one, Vicky.
Have I?
Page
Yes, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. You've page 144, the revised board meeting schedule.
Oh, right. Yeah. So has anyone got any issues about that? Sorry. Is everyone happy with that? Yep. All happy? Do I need a motion to that, or do we? Is that just information available?
Sorry, just a question, Chair, if I may, before you do that. So the next community board meeting would be on Monday, the 7th of September. Am I right in saying that June,
Yes.
July, August? So that's 3 months away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, 2 months away. God. Okay.
Yes, that is true. But through you, Madam Chair, if you had urgent business, we would convene an extraordinary community board meeting for you as required. But at this point, so I'm not sure what Mayor Kircher is signalling.
Mayor Kircher.
Signalling 3 to Councillor McRoby.
3. 2.
What is it?
It's to July.
Yeah, it's 3 months. It's 3 months. I mean, I did discuss that with the chair, but as I said, we can schedule an extraordinary meeting if there is urgent business that comes up. Otherwise, we'll just work through it and try and catch up with the schedule as council is doing.
And we'll have a workshop in the middle of this to talk about.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. We'll do.
Might come up. Yep.
Yes. You can schedule workshops at any time. We'll come back to those separately. This is the main reason you have to adopt your meeting schedule, even if you revise it, is that it's all about the public notification of meetings. So there's a legal requirement here. So you must legally change the date of your meeting, resolve it as an entity.
I'm happy to move it.
Thank you.
Have I got a seconder?
Yep, I'll second that. Thank you.
Brent, yeah. So, any further discussion? Hopefully we can stick to that schedule and we don't have another pandemic and everything just changed in front of us. But yeah, Ross Menzies, did you want to say something, or are you agreeing? Yeah, Ross Menzies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I was jumping in ahead to agree to the.
Oh, yeah, there's always one. Yeah, so
always...
I put it to the meeting that you all agree on the schedule. Accept it, against, carried. Okay, we'll get to the important piece now. So my report, I struggled with this, but I felt that it was important. These reports will end up in the archives like us, no doubt, and it's been a very strange time in our life. I always think that my parents went through a depression and wars, and us baby boomers have had it pretty simple. So I wanted to mention also the fact that that June had resigned, and she's a great loss to us all. So if there's any questions? No? No. So I move that my report be adopted. Do I have a seconder? Yep. Ross Menzies, yep. All agree? Against? Great. Cool, thank you. So the assets update. Have we any discussion on that? Any discussion? It's difficult to watch like 9 screens. Yeah. No discussions on any of those issues? Ross McRobbie?
Sorry, Vicky. Look, I just want to ensure that the Alps to Ocean heading comes to each of our board meetings between now and when that sailors cutting section is finished.
Sure.
There's a lot of pressure on everybody to make this happen. And unlike the roadway between Aviemore and Kurau, you can't bypass a bridge if you're talking about going from Sailors to the Benmore Dam. You either do the trail or you don't. So I'm told by Eric on my meeting with him on Saturday that they're all trying very, very hard to make this happen by Christmas, despite perhaps the lateness of starting. So we just need to ensure that that is really achieved. Really achieved.
Right. So, Mr. Powers or Mayor Kircher, have you got anything to say about that? The Ocean Towers?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we're very keen to see it succeed, so staff will make every effort to make sure that
yes,
all stops are pulled out in relation to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Ainsley.
Just picking up on what Councillor McRobbie said, I have spoken directly to the Recreation Unit, and they have assured me that there will be a line in each or a paragraph in each of the reports. I've passed that message on and they've agreed to do it, so it will be there.
That particular section goes over our property on Ross Streeter, and I've had a little bit of inside knowledge, and the guys at the core face of the project certainly are really getting into it, and I'm feeling very confident that they're giving it their best. So it's a very exciting venture for the Waitaki Valley, particularly Ota Matata and Amarama. So yeah, all right. So can we have a mover to adopt the assets update? Ross Menzies, and a seconder, Peter Ellis. Great. Thank you. That was the recreational update. Well, we've talked about the Ocean Towers. So you all read that. The sandpit cover, that's another issue that's been going on for some time, and it's very exciting that we're actually going to get something. The sandpit cover's down and being well used by the local children. I can't help saying at the time with the lockdown that it just was perhaps more heartbreaking to know that our kids couldn't go and play in these playgrounds that we've gone out and done so much for. So, yeah. So, no. So, the recreational update.
No.
Who did that?
Yeah. Money in the jar. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'll move that we accept the update.
Recreational update, and do I have a seconder for that? Put it, Peter, Alice, put it to the meeting. All accepted. Against. Done. So the financial report, which is always an interesting report. So we've all read it. Any discussions on the Ahuriri Community Board financial update?
I'm happy to move, Chair, the recommendations 1 and 2 on page 151.
Thank you, Ross McRoby. Do I have a seconder to that? Ross Menzies, okay. So I put it to the meeting. All accepted? Against? Carried. These reports are amazing. So we're on to the links to the Mayor's report and the Chief Executive. So,
Madam Chair, excuse me, 6.5.
6.5, I've missed out on that, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, my apologies. Against building consents. Right, we've all read that. There's still a lot happening in our valley. Certainly still moving on. So do I, Michelle?
I just thought I'd say at this stage we haven't seen much of a decline in building consent applications and the amount of work going on, but it is very early days, and a lot of work, of course, was already in progress before COVID-19. So yeah, we'll watch with interest.
Thanks so much, Michelle. It's great to hear it from you. Any other discussions? So can I have a recommendation that mover and a seconder that the building consents be accepted?
Yeah, I'll move that we accept that the board receives the notes of information.
Yeah, and a seconder for that? Yeah, Ross Menzies. Put it to the meeting. Accepted. Against. No, carried. Wonderful. So we're on to the council information reports and the website links. I hope you've all read it, and Mayor Gary, would you like to say anything towards your report?
Yeah, obviously everyone's read each of mine. It's been really hard actually writing a report every 2 weeks. We basically, you have a meeting and then you pretty much the next day you've got to start writing the report for the next one. It's a bit challenging, but it has been very much a moving feast over this time, and it's been a challenge I think that the Waitaki District's really risen to, and we've done very well. And you know, we've, apart from a few naughty children around the place, well, not necessarily children either, you know, most people have followed the rules, taken the right precautions, and we've got through this pretty well. So moving to level 1 now tonight is, I think, you know, we are very ready for it. Some people might not feel ready, but you know, we've been without any active cases for over a month now. I can't remember what we're up to, but it's been quite a long time in Otago and Southland, and even that wee bit called Ahuriri, which technically is in Canterbury now, but we'll never accept that. You know, the whole area is done very well, and you know, that's really good. I do just want to take the opportunity to pay tribute to June C and the short time that she's spent on the community board, but just acknowledge that her service there and also previous service with Waitaki District Council and Environment Canterbury, and certainly, you know, express my disappointment that June has left the community board, but you know, publicly would like to minute my appreciation for the work that she's done for the community, and wish her all the very, very best when she does make the move to Christchurch on the 14th of July.
Mr. Powers, do you want to speak to your report?
Just very briefly, the pandemic was obviously one of the largest things to impact New Zealand in 2 lifetimes, and I'm just really, really pleased with the way that the team, the entire wider team of council was able to respond to it in terms of both preparation prior to the pandemic, gripping in terms of level 3 and then rapidly level 4. We had around 95% of staff engaged and able to work remotely very effectively, and the investment that council has made in digital building control processing really proved its value, and really that whole journey that we're on in relation to making this workplace a digital workplace is extremely valuable work, and it's certainly going to place us in an even stronger position should there be a recurrence of either COVID-19 or touch wood, it never happens, but something even worse. So very, very pleased with the way that our staff dealt with the matter. Now that we're coming into level 1 as of midnight tonight, it's all hands back on deck. Waitaki does seem to be not as badly affected as some other parts of the region and New Zealand, largely because of our large agricultural and mining and manufacturing industries. For Otago, interestingly, GDP expenditure has been down only around 1% or so for like periods from last year, but certain parts of the economy obviously have taken really a shattering hit, and accommodation and tourism in particular have been very, very badly hit indeed. But we're looking forwards to a return to normality as rapidly as possible, with level 1 being announced this afternoon.
That's wonderful. Brent.
Fergus, if I could just add to that, obviously from someone who's in that accommodation sector, the tourism side, we were hit incredibly hard. To be fair, it was a very, very large chunk of forward bookings, but pleased to report from our side we're almost at 25% of recovery already in forward bookings coming back in. So there's a lot of buoyancy around that, and there's a lot of hedges being bet on the Trans-Tasman relationship opening up. But if that is to happen, things are looking really positive, actually. And the support that we're seeing up the valley and the numbers coming through the valley in general, and everyone I speak to up the valley, and the message of supporting local and getting around and having a look out has been pretty great so far.
Yeah, and just on that, it's really, in some ways, a bit of a blessing that in comparison to some other parts of the country, we haven't had an enormous international tourism element. So around 60% of tourism income is domestic related for the Waitaki. So we're in a relatively strong position because we can target and aim to pull back in within our borders, those domestic tourists, as resources permit. Obviously, a lot of people have lost their jobs, or families are suffering from reduced income, and that will impact things to a degree. And there's an expectation that that will mean a reduced domestic tourism load of around 30% or more. But with good marketing and us being, frankly, one of the most staggeringly beautiful parts of the country for people to visit, I think things, as you say, there is a positive future ahead, and we all just need to get our shoulders against the wheel.
And I think we underestimate the domestic market. They're certainly getting out there, and I think in Matata, most of us had takeaways more in that first week than we had in the last 6 months. So, it's great to see our local people support us.
Just in relation to that, I mean, a fascinating statistic that you'll note in Jared Quinn's report to the 16th of June meeting of Council in his Economic Recovery Manager's report. There's data there indicating that for Otago, not for the Waitaki necessarily, but for Otago, the largest employment sector is takeaway foods. And I was staggered with that, ahead of education, ahead of so many other sectors. And, this comes back again to, the value and the importance of data, and really understanding not just what Otago looks like and is, and what Canterbury is, but what is Waitaki actually? And of course we're changing, we're all evolving and changing over time. So having that data will help us understand what our future is, as well as what our present is.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much. So the recommendation is that the Ahuriri Community Board receives and notes the information. Do I have a mover on that? Ross McRoby, a seconder. Ross Menzies, the two Rosses. I put it to the meeting. Do everyone accept? Against? Carried. Wow. So I officially close our first Zoom meeting. It was a great experience.